All right, so this is my first video of myself running um, just something that I wanted to start doing for myself to observe for the future, to express what I'm passionate about, what I'm confident in, where I want to go, and one of the things that I learned recently was being able to verbalize and communicate with yourself is far more impactful than communicating with others, trying to express yourself to people who might not be in the right space to receive your message. But if you can speak with yourself in a confident way, and if you can learn from many sources and then teach yourself what to do with that information, it's one of the most gratifying and satisfying things you can ever do. When you can reward yourself by your own knowledge and your own experience and your own hard work, and you celebrate literally for yourself, by yourself, you can create a different mindset. You can create a different knowledge. You can create a heightened awareness. You can create a very strong consciousness of who you are, what you're doing, where you're going. And I've spent a lot of time in the last 10 years of my life focusing on communicating with others and never communicating with myself, never giving myself the opportunity to express things that I never thought would be important. But using all of my experience and learning from all of my mistakes over the years and trying my best to be a better person every day, trying to learn, trying to grow, trying to shine bright, and using the tools that I've given myself in my life to enrich my life, to stay positive, to surround myself with people who are like-minded. And it's been really tough. Like I've never felt a part of a family in my life, and that's been my biggest struggle, is that I've overcompensated for not having a support system in which I felt home, I felt a part of, I felt a family, a group of people around me to express love and to reward me and to help me up when I was down. And it took a long time for me to really not just work through it, but understand why I'm overcompensating, why I'm continuing to make the same decisions every day, why I'm trying to focus on things that make me feel a certain way for a very short period of time, but I keep getting to the same end result. I keep feeling the same feelings. I keep being hurt in the same ways. And for me, the most important thing that I have in my life is my ability to share and love others and pass on. I can be an extrovert when it comes to helping other people, but I can't seem to ever be satisfied or get enough in a reciprocal way. So part of why I'm making this video, and I hope to make more videos in the future and really focus on communicating with myself, is to understand myself better and to look back on and watch who I was and how I thought and where my decision making tree was leading me. And I also want to forge a new path in my life to find peace with where I came from and find a sustainable way for me to feel comfort, love, home, and being a part of something. Now, I don't believe in the notion that blood makes you family. I believe that energy and time and loyalty makes you family. And you don't need to be born into anything in order to receive those things. You have to be willing to accept it. You have to be willing to not judge where it comes from. And you also need to be willing to not expect it. So I've built walls around myself for why I do things for people, or why I invest my time or energy in certain people. And it came from a place where I was incomplete and looking to fill a void, which in that mindset will never happen. I'll never be able to force that feeling into my life. You can never do enough you can't buy it, you can't synthesize it, you can't make it in a lab or anything like that. It needs to come from an organic place, and you have to be willing to accept it in your life as it comes. And when you're giving it, you need to be able to find a place to be happy from when you do things for others, whether it's small or big, whether it's a product of the monetary system, or whether it's just the investment of your time and energy and love into someone who you care about. Either way, whatever it is that you're doing, you're putting that out into the world for that person or that thing. And I've always thought that I needed to feel that back in a direct way from whoever I was investing in. And it led me down a very, I guess for lack, a horrible path. It led me down to a place where I was very unhappy, very depressed, very desensitized. And I think a lot of people who have become successful in one way or another, that have tried to help others, get put into a category of being snobs or being inconsiderate or thinking they're better than other people, that believe, those people just think they're better than everyone else because they have some status or a number in their bank account or some materialistic possession, or they travel this much, or they get to do these things, or whatever you want to place on that of someone who is monetarily successful and achieved a level of freedom in their life which gives them more than what the other person has. And I think for the most part it's not true. I just think that people give up. And I've definitely felt the feeling of giving up. I felt the willingness to, in my head, think like I'm never going to do something ever again for anyone. Like, I never want to feel the pain of, or the hurt of not being reciprocated in the way that I thought I needed to be reciprocated. And it's a very dangerous way to go about feeling yourself and being in that mindset every day. And that's just, for me, something I'm really battling to fix. I'm battling to acknowledge that that's who I have been my whole life, and that's something that is not easy. It's not an easy habit to stop or to not just continue to do every day. And when I think about where I've come from and my story personally, when I think about the people who've been in my life from day one and the people who are in my life now and all the people in the middle, I find myself in a very peculiar place where I feel no connection to anything, to anyone. I feel no sense of family, no sense of being a part of a lot of things. And I get little snippets of it. I feel things, from time to time. I get constant reminders. I have, this little handheld device which has constant things like social media and notifications and sports, and they're all there in front of you every day, but they don't bring a sustainable feeling for me, and I don't think for anyone. But I'm working towards finding a sustainable solution to feel more complete, to feel content, to feel loved, to love others, and to share relationships that are beneficial to both parties. And I want more than anything for myself to learn from others, from myself, learn from mistakes, learn from everything. But I think for the most part, I stopped learning when I had a level of success, when I was able to achieve freedom from making more money than the average person. And it gave me a false sense of accomplishment or completeness. And it doesn't matter what you attain, that won't ever fix how you feel inside. It won't ever give you peace of mind after it all. It won't give you the ability to wake up every day and be happy with what you're doing. And I'm looking to make a change that can give me that again, and not just for now but forever. Something that will give me a way to feel content, to feel happiness, to feel love, to feel genuine, fruitful, reciprocal relationships. And I don't have all the answers. This is my first video about, on this path, and I don't expect it to happen tonight, tomorrow, overnight, in any aspect. I don't expect that my journey is going to be easy or give me the things that I want now. I just expect that I have a willingness and an ability to constantly push forward and do this in a ongoing manner. And of all of any accomplishments in my life that I could point at, the one that I'm most proud of is the willingness to never quit, is to have the motivation and drive to never say die, to never pack it in, and the willingness to keep going no matter what happens. And there's so many obstacles. There's so many obstacles in every part of life, whether it's personal relationships, family, business, work, friendships, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, grandmothers, whatever the obstacles are in front of you, they're never going to stop. And I think that I realized that at a very young age, that like there's just so many obstacles, and just when you think you've had you're at the worst and you just everything that can go wrong will go wrong, when you're there, it can still be worse, and it will constantly challenge and test you in the worst ways, just to see if you'll quit, just to give you that taste of what quitting feels like. And I know that I've battled through a lot in terms of self-doubt, in terms of lack of acknowledgement, lack of belief, not having anyone around me to prop me up or keep me going. And I didn't quit. I had many financial obstacles in terms of being down and out, not having any source of income, not having any tools, not having any place to work, and I was still able to push through and to make it happen, and to not quit on my dream or any of my dreams. So I would point to three main achievements in my life, personally speaking, and I think everyone has their own biggest accomplishments and biggest things that they're proud of, and it's easy to point towards little things or monetary goals that you set for yourself, or the car that you bought, or the house that you bought, or the trip that you went on, or the girl that you finally got with, or dude for the other side. But for me, I was put into I chose a situation. I absolutely chose a situation to be in. I put myself there. I think at a young age, I made a decision to go my own way. I couldn't find resolve. I couldn't find a way to make relationships work within my family. And so at the age of 17, I was basically on my own. I didn't have any family at all around me. So all the basic necessities in life in terms of providing for yourself, I had to figure out, how to eat, how to live, how to put a roof over your head, maintain a job, have a car, pay insurance, bills, start. And I'll never be able to thank anyone for that, but I do thank myself for doing that, for making that decision, because it forced me into a mindset at a young age of do or die. And a lot of people don't get that feeling at that age. A lot of people do get a do or die, sink or swim, flight or fright mentality, at different points in their life. And it takes sometimes a lot of things to go wrong to get there. But you really define who you are when your back is up against the wall. You really show your true character when there's nothing left. When you feel absolutely everything is at its end and you have to start over. You have to make a plan. You have to create something out of nothing. And for most of my life, I was able to do that because I had the motivation of proving people wrong. And it's fuck you motivation. That's what it is. And it has to be the most powerful motivation out there, one of the most powerful ones. It keeps you going. You wake up in the morning and you literally want to do anything to prove either that person or those people or that establishment, that job, that boss, your parents, your brother, your sister, whoever your critics are, whoever the people who put you down or made you feel less. You can wake up and literally go after what you're doing in your life because you want to show them, like, you said I can't do this, watch me. Like, you don't think I'm going to do anything with my life? Watch me. You don't think that, I was worth trying to keep in your life? I wasn't worth your time. I wasn't worth, trying to work through my problems with? No problem. Let me do it by myself, and let's see what happens afterwards. And, it works. Like, I had so many people who I wanted to prove wrong in my life at 17. And I really, really desperately wanted to showcase what I could do by myself, even at whatever age. So, I don't want to go on a tangent about my story from 17 onwards. But what I was able to do at a young age was put together a career path for myself. I was able to accomplish workplace respect. I was able to educate myself by experience. I was able to grow personally. I was able to learn a phenomenal amount about business, about people, about time management, about best practices, having critical thought. I was able to do a lot of training. I was able to expand my mind in a way, and at the same time I was able to get paid a salary to do that. And I desperately wanted before that to go to school, to go to post-secondary education. I wanted to go to like a college to learn computer programming. But I couldn't figure out a path on how to do that by myself. I thought about it and I tried and I wanted to, but I financially couldn't see how I was going to do that. I didn't get approved for student loans. I didn't have any help financially. So it didn't logically make sense for me to try to pursue post-secondary education. Not that I think it's hugely beneficial, and I think anyone who does college, university, or any form of education, you can't go wrong. You can't lose in any way. You are expanding tools for yourself, and you're giving yourself the opportunity to learn. But for me, when I was in sink or swim mode at 17 and I'm trying to forge a path and trying to think about what I'm going to do, I wanted instant results. I wanted quick, accelerated growth. I wanted to prove my family and people in my life wrong, like as soon as possible. I wanted to, and I wanted them to know it, and I wanted to put it in their face, and I wanted them to see me do it without them, without no help. And I was able to do that. You know, I was between the ages of 17 and 19. I pursued a retail career. It was the fastest way I could see to making good money for myself. And at 19, I was able to make $80,000 salary. I was able to buy a house. I was able to afford a nice car. I was able to, enjoy some luxuries in life with what that would provide. I was making a salary that was, built more for the average family. And I was just a single 19-year-old guy with no expenses, no family, no kids, no responsibilities other than myself. So I spent that money. I spent it kind of frivolously, and I obviously took, it took more steps than what I said to do that, and I didn't know that it would happen that quickly, but I'll tell you, I was the first guy at work. I was the last person to leave. I invested every ounce of myself into the workplace wherever I worked, and I wanted results. I wanted to learn. I wanted to, whoever was ahead of me, whoever my boss was, whoever was my manager, I wanted them happy. I wanted to do the job better than anyone else. I wanted to show that I was the best performing person on the team. And in hindsight, it was me filling the void of not having a family. And that's what I did. I made work my family. I made my bosses my parents. I made my coworkers my siblings. I made, relationships with people based on me filling a void in my personal life that wasn't there. So I spent more time at work than anyone else because it was my home. I didn't want to go home to myself. I didn't want to go to my, apartment. During that time, I had a very cheap place, shared accommodation, between the ages of 17 and 19 before I could buy my house. Like, I didn't want to go there. I didn't care about them. I didn't really have many friends. All my friends came from work anyways. So going home was just like kind of sleep. It was just a caveat to the next day, to the next time. And I was thrilled to go in on my days off. I was stoked to do whatever work event was going on or participate in anything, related to my job, because I had nothing else. I had nothing else that was, keeping me going. So I kept my retail career going till about 21, 22. So for the better part of, 4 years, 17, 4 or 5 years, I would say, I did retail management, and I didn't go too much higher. I was able to work in Toronto and Vancouver, and after all my stuff, I think I maxed out at about $100K a year. But that was whatever more money I made, I spent. So it wasn't. I don't feel too much accomplishment from 19 to 21 financially. But what I do feel I accomplished was maturity. All of my managerial skill set, I was able to expand. I was able to really get a good understanding from multiple different companies on operations, on customer service, on just management structures, dealing with different levels of people. And it was very interesting to see me go from nothing to 80K. You know, it happened so quickly, and then for the next 2 years to kind of, 80, not even, call it whatever you want. It wasn't some sort of, huge growth over the 2 years, but I spent 2 years kind of jumping around to a few different companies, trying to find the right fit, trying to learn a different skill set or expand my skill set, or take the knowledge that I had from other jobs and get a promotion at a different company. So that was my approach. But I became very complacent after 5 years of doing it, and I felt that every day I was doing the same thing at work without seeing a path to how I was going to get to learn more, to grow, to be stronger, to have the tools that I wanted that I didn't have. I became stagnant, and ultimately it took some bad experiences for me to move on. I had to get fired from a couple jobs. I had to have some bad run-ins, some bad experiences. And for me, I could have, had a happy life working and making that kind of money, and maybe invested 10 to 20 years and gotten to a more senior level management position in some type of corporate office or regional management or territorial, or country, in whatever, retail company that might be. And that type of accelerated growth wasn't going to happen in a couple of years. That would be something of me like investing 10 to 20 years into a company and taking, 5-year promotions at a time, and really going through the mud and the corporate ladder that is, big business nowadays. And in order to get into, an executive position, almost everyone, you mandatory need an MBA, or you need, at least a 5 to 7 year university education just to get a seat at an interview. But if you work from within, lots of companies will promote you, continuously, and you will get into a position like that without those credentials, but you have to invest 10, 20 years to get there. And I looked at it, and I looked at where I was at, and I looked at, being 21, 22, I got, the world ahead of me. I've been able to accomplish a lot, but I didn't see myself giving up 10 to 20 years to be at a place where I might be $200K a year, $300K a year. And I saw that as like a huge mountain to climb, and I couldn't sustain that thought for long enough to keep me motivated. I had already used up all of my fuck you motivation from 17 to 19. That's where it got me. That fuck you motivation absolutely was the reason why I was able to do it. But I didn't have the fuck you motivation from 19 to 21 or 22. I didn't have it. It went away. I satisfied. I proved everyone. I already made more than everyone in my family. I already proved all of my haters wrong. I already accomplished the things they said I would never do or never turn into. I had some things acquired that, are meaningless now, but at the time I thought were, such huge accomplishments, like buying a house or that nice new car that you're leasing and, whatever. It just, At the time, it felt like the greatest thing in the world. And in hindsight, it means nothing. It did nothing for me. It didn't give me any motivation. I didn't grow from it. I didn't become a better person because I bought a house. I didn't have, it is always an investment and something like that. I'm glad, for that reason. Uh, but it didn't give me any sort of sustainable motivation. I didn't, you know, I think it kind of put me into a trap where then I needed to maintain that level of income. So now I need to continue to bring an income in a place where, and not have any true motivation anymore. I used it. I didn't really have much more to prove to, the naysayers, or to my family, or to anyone like that anymore. I already did it. I already did that. I already used that one up. So it came down to a summer. I think it was like 2008, 2009. I think 2009. And I was able to make a big decision for myself that I wanted to quit working in retail. I wanted to quit my pursuit of a career down that path. And I wanted to find something that I would be more passionate about, that came from within. And at 17, it was a fight or flight. It was a do or die, sink or swim, and I was willing to do anything to make money, to prove people, with that motivation. Didn't matter. I could have been working any job. Did not matter. But it wasn't sustainable because it wasn't truly like a passion or a hobby or something that always interested my mind. And when I was before that, and in high school, I wanted to learn programming. I wanted to go to school and take computer programming. I always loved technology. I always wanted to have a computer. I always wanted to have a cell phone. We grew up in the days of the first cell phones. That was our youth. That was my youth. Was the big clunker phone. And then all the way up until what it is today. But whenever new technology was released, I was always mesmerized by it. The inception of the internet, of fast internet, of games online, multiplayer games, of gaming consoles, PlayStation, Xbox, and Sega, first Nintendos, like any sort of technology, I was always just thought it was so cool, and I always wanted to learn how to use it and get involved and try to figure it out. It was like a big puzzle, but like a really interesting puzzle. So, that for me was like where like that creative, the happiness on a daily basis was. And I wasn't doing anything with that, with my work. There was some, there was computers at work, but it was just like there to serve a purpose. There was no creativity involved. There was no technology that I was mesmerized by, or something that I could do. I was filling out reports, sending emails, something that just made it easier than when you didn't have it. But at the end of the day, you're doing the same thing that you did 20 years ago, 50 years ago. You just didn't have to send it in the mail. You didn't have to fax it. You don't have to get on a conference call and tell everyone your sales. You could do it all in an instant. So, but the act of doing it is the same. It's you just have this vehicle which makes it quicker. So, I wanted to learn computer programming, web design. I didn't really know exactly what I was gonna do, but before I kind of had this. I played this online multiplayer game. Sounds ridiculous, and it's called Idle Pimps, and some friends of mine in high school introduced me to it, and I don't know, their brothers played it and whatever. But it was just a super interesting thing to me. I thought it was fun to play. I liked that there was so many other people that played, and it was team oriented. Like, you play with others, and it was interactive, it was multiplayer, and I was just fascinated by how it all worked. It also was all based on math. It had every part of the game was strictly about numbers and stats, and that really gave like brain fuel for me. Like I just thought it was amazing, even though it was very simple, and a lot of people would say that's stupid, that's a dumb game, that's why whatever, move on. But for me, it was cool enough where I wanted to learn how everything worked in the game and make it myself. I wanted to make my own game, and that's what I did. So I didn't go to school for computer programming, but the fact that I was so intrigued and interested in this one game, it was the thing, because I knew how the game worked so well, how every single feature worked. I was able to logically put together how something like that would work as a machine behind it. And it obviously didn't just happen overnight, but I would spend my free time. This was like the 6 months before I made the decision to be done with retail. But in that time, I had found, like, searching through Google, just like multiplayer online RPG game scripts, and like trying to find some sort of clone of a different game and then morph it into the game that I played, and then create my own game. And then my plan was, once I had an operational game, I would recruit players from the game that I played to come play on my game. And there was a how the game made, there was features in the game to make money, and you could basically buy things from the game, and it would give you more than the other people. It's cheating, but you would pay to cheat. And like, that's how the game made money. Everyone wanted to win. So if you were willing to bust out the credit card, then you could win, cheat to win. So of course nobody knew that you did it, and it could never prove it, but it was obvious, like the people who spent money, because they always had more than everyone else. So that was intriguing, because it's like, okay, so I can build this game, then I can recruit players. I have this full marketplace of people. I can spam them. I can, whatever, go on the game. I can make 100 accounts. I can do whatever I can, and I'll get these players onto my game. And then, eventually, once there's a user base, then people will start spending money on my game because they want to win that one too. Flawless plan. Went off without a hitch. So I had put this together. I had put together this idea, and I worked tirelessly in all my free time trying to figure out how each script worked. And I came across, like, it led me to learn what's called PHP, and it's like the most widely used programming language for server-based websites. So that was like really fun, like the most fun of almost anything I've done with web design and development and programming, was the process of learning it, and like the not knowing but highly motivating. Like, it wasn't fuck you motivation, it was creative motivation. And it drove me every day. Like, I didn't give a fuck about work anymore. I wanted to get home and turn my computer on and get whatever script I was working on that day. There was so many different features of the game, and they each were their own page, their own script, and I had to figure out each of them and build my own version. So it was like super cool because I would like learn how to do things, and I wasn't intentionally trying to learn PHP at the time. I was just trying to get my game to work. But the end result was that I learned how to program by trial and error, by putting together this this game that was something, whatever, just a stupid hobby, but yet I literally taught myself a programming language and was able to understand and build a replica. And it was just so fascinating, like every part. And when I think back to doing it and to like all of the time that I put into it and like how each day was, it was effortless. It was absolutely effortless. Like, I just wanted to do it. I didn't care. I had no fucks given, like, to the point where I wasn't probably doing the best job at work because I wasn't even mentally there. I wasn't invested. It was just like, I'll pay my bills, but like, I'll do the minimum now because I'm not motivated. I don't have something, burning inside me. I have nothing to prove, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, the rant is part of me. I rant about things and can't get to the point. But when I finally got to a point where it was like a usable game, not a finished product, but like a working parts version, I started, recruiting my first players and just saying, hey, I'm beta testing, like, can you come and check this out, blah, 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 blah. And I went into basically sales mode just to try to recruit people. And it wasn't difficult because I had this resource right in front of me. Obviously, the people, the owners of that game probably wouldn't be too happy that I was doing that. And over time, they, initially caught on to what I was doing and then wouldn't, they would just remove my accounts because they knew I was just messaging them. They created spam filters and I had to get really creative with the words that I could use because they would just instantly ban any accounts that would mention these words or anything to do with my site, or just removing links altogether. So it was a bit of a cat and mouse game after a while, but I only needed to kind of get enough of the players initially to come over, and then word spread. So that was cool. And after beta testing, it was in the summer, and I had reworked a few things, and I changed some color sets and blah blah blah. And my game was called Canada Idol, so I thought that was just so cool, just genius, really. But anyway, I was working in Vancouver, and I had my game running. It was an active. The way the game worked was split into rounds, and each round would be a month in real time, and then it would reset each month. So I had one of my first live rounds going in a month where all the players and everything was just running. And I was I'll never forget it because it was one of those moments in life where you just can't believe it. But someone had bought turns from the game. They bought a feature from the game which they could through PayPal. And that in itself took me forever to figure out how do I accept money from PayPal, and then once they do that, I needed to give them the things in the game. And that fucking took me forever to figure out. But I was like, well, I'm not doing all this work if people want to give me their money, and I can't. So anyway, I was like at work, and it was just super random, and I hadn't had anything really going on. But I checked my phone on my break or something like that, and I had a notification that I received $10 from PayPal, and it was from Canada Idol. And I just about shit myself. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was literally, I thought I won the lottery. Like, I thought that was it. I made it. Like, fucking, let me just, that's it. And, it was $10. It's not replacing my $100K a year salary or anywhere close to it. It was nothing. But at the feeling that I got from that was life-changing, because it was like, yeah, you didn't go to school for this, and nobody told you to do this, and nobody fucking, gave you this master plan. Like, you did this all on your own. You came up with this idea, and you learned everything yourself. You did the work, like, without a blueprint, without a guide, without a mentor, without fucking anything. Just creative motivation. And it spit out money. Well, that was the only thing I needed to see. And I think it only took me like a week or two from there to where I was done with retail and quit my job / was probably going to get fired because I was doing a shitty job anyways. And I was in Vancouver, and all I wanted to do was just go back home to Victoria, where I bought my house, and spend all my time on the game and on the next idea I had, and blah, 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 blah. So, financially, not the best plan. But, I had been in worse positions in my life already. I had already felt not having anything, and I had saved some money, and I had a line of credit, and I figured, how hard can this really be? How hard can it be? And I wouldn't recommend anyone to do that, make that decision, quit your job after making $10. But that was a decision I made. And, be it what it may, it took me another 4 years after that to make anywhere close to what I was making in retail. Even close, even like a third of what I was making in retail. It took me 4 years. And 4 years of struggle and suffering, and my car my Lexus that I had on payments got repossessed. My mortgage went delinquent. I couldn't pay for groceries. Like, man, the struggle in those 4 years, like, I can't really describe them. I have a lot of blessings in my life that I was able to, like, get through it, and I'll forever be grateful for them, and I'll be forever paying them back and making sure. It really was one person that if I didn't have in my life, my girlfriend at the time, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would be. I have to just, at this point, be eternally grateful that she was there for me and helped me in a financial way, to survive and keep my house and whatnot. But there was levels of survival that I was willing to accept, and I was willing, push came to shove, to go out and do bottle drives or take side jobs or do little things that, once I had enough knowledge to do that, I could apply for gigs on Craigslist and different things like that would bring in some money over those 4 years. But there was nothing sustainable. I didn't work a ongoing job. I didn't have set contracts or anything like that. It was like huge battle of just like not knowing when the next money was going to come in, and like when I was going to feel better about my decision, or like all the time. And I got back to that place where I had rekindled some relationships in my life after, with my family and with people in my life who were big doubters, and I had that motivation for when I was 17. And it was like it all happened again. They're all like, "What are you doing? Like you're fucking wasting your time. You're doing nothing. You're never gonna make money. You're never you get a real job." Can't tell you how many times people say, "Get a real job, Ryan." Like, this is a joke. Like, the fact that Lisa's helping you out, how can you live with yourself? Like, blah blah blah. Like, I never heard the end of it, and it was just like so so many people, so many things were pointing towards like, okay, enough's enough. Like, go back to retail, or like, start a new career. Like, how easy would it be to just go work a job and then do this on the side? And it was just like, oh man, painful times. So 2022 to 26 was 4 years of my life that I don't really know how to describe them, like in terms of what it took, how much willpower it took to keep going, and how many unknowns I had every day, and the emotional toll it takes when you lose the things that you worked towards before, like your car, and not being able to get new clothes, or just travel at all, go anywhere, visit people, movies, golfing. Like, I couldn't do any of those things anymore, and it was just like that feeling of where I could have done anything I wanted, outside of work, of course, but like having the freedom, because having an income, and then not having that again, and literally being kind of confined and stuck to, at times, which felt like a jail cell, working out of my room in my basement in my house every day, and trying to find that motivation to like keep going and work on the next thing. And there was small wins, here and there, and I thought like, I was gonna figure it out, and like, some money was made from my game. And I think all in all, the best month I ever had with the game was about $2,500, and that was closer to the beginning. It just wasn't sustainable, and I think all in all, the project maybe made me like 10 grand over the course of like a year, which nobody can survive on 10 grand in a year. So that was that. It eventually died off, and the players stopped playing both, like all of the games that I had started it from, and my game, and blah blah blah. And so that fizzled off, and it was kind of a fad, which peaked before I even started it. But that's kind of what happened there. And I didn't really know, I had lots of ideas all the time. I was coming up with new ideas, and I always thought that next idea would be the thing that I would do. But none of them panned out until, like, I guess a year to a year and a half before being 26, so around 25, let's just say. I started working on what ultimately turned into, morphed into something that was sustainable, and something that did bring me big financial success. And the short story inside of my long story is, I put together some websites that coincided with Twitter accounts So basically, the people came from Twitter to a website, and then a percentage of those people on the website would then earn me money via a few different ways. It started out with like little quizzes that at the end of the quiz would send them through a path, which if they filled out a survey or something like that, I would get paid some small commission on. And then ultimately, I got into just Google advertisements. So Google has their own program for publishers, which you can serve ads from Google on any website, and they do like a revenue share, which is like 65-35. You get paid on like a per click basis. So I learned how the process worked on a very small scale, and I saw how people came from Twitter to a website, and then I saw a very small amount of money made. Like we're talking like $10 a month. But I was intrigued because I saw that it was just one topic. It was like a music related website with a music related Twitter account, and so when I saw both, I got excited because I was like, well, there's a million bands out there, so like I could just duplicate this a million times. I could, and then past that, there's so many topics other than just music. There's so many things out there. And so it just it sparked what then ultimately took me to the next level, which was dedicating all of my time to building a following on Twitter with a multitude of accounts. And I put together a system which took a lot of grunt work in the beginning stages of gaining followers. Because the more followers I had on Twitter, the more people I could send to the website, which then in turn would make me more money. So there were some milestones that it took, but I knew it was coming, but that last year was like kind of, the last leg of a marathon. And so the finish line happened in a dramatic way for me, which was pretty cool because I had a really amazing moment in my life, which was like going through 4 years of that struggle and seeing that. I had gotten to that point in that year where I was making like 50 to $100 a day doing my Twitter system, and I had a bunch of different accounts and websites going and all related to one topic or another. And it was providing like a $50 to $100 a day income. And, for me, that money was under the table, and it was just like non-taxable at the time because it was just so small. I needed every penny. I wasn't trying to heist anything, but I was just like, I need that money more than anything else. And I also needed to pay for my 4 years as well. Anyways, it was at least enough, for me to pay my bills and to be able to eat out and golf and go to a movie. Even at $1,500 to $3,000 a month, it seems like nothing. But when you have had nothing, that seems like a fucking like winning the lottery. So at that point, I was excuse me. At that point, I was more content than ever because I also believe like I can expand, I can continue to grow. I know I have something coming in and I have a plan for the future, or at least something I'm working towards that has a very, very high chance of continuing to succeed and grow because of taking this from an idea that I found that was $10 a month into something that was making me $50 to $100 a day. So that was, exciting. And I was at that level for a few months. Like, I think maybe 3 to 6 months, I was making around that, doing the same thing. But I had put together this following system that was always running, like every day. And it was a lot of manual labor, like a lot of grunt work that you just had to do over and over every day to get these new followers on the accounts, it was work. It was literally finding a way to gain followers on your accounts in a way that didn't cost money. I wasn't running ads. I wasn't running some marketing scheme or something like that. It was literally targeting people who I knew were interested in each account. So just for example, if I have a music website for Britney Spears, then I'm going to make a Twitter account for Britney Spears for my website, and then I'm going to follow Britney Spears accounts, followers. And the chance of a Britney Spears follower following me back on a Britney Spears account was pretty high. And the conversion was like 25%. So I would follow them, they would follow me back. But it worked because it was targeted. And so then it was like, okay, well, I need an account for everything. And that's when you're doing that every day, and then having to learn all of Twitter's rules, because there was lots of obstacles there with what they would allow and not allow. And then you did all this work, you could just get your account suspended or, what have you. So lots of obstacles there, and figuring out a lot of things and trying to automate things and blah, 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 blah. But I had put together like 60 accounts or so that I was manually doing every single day myself, this following job. And I was doing like 10 hours a day, just like going through these accounts and like following people all day long on every account. And then it was like sending, and then on all of those accounts would be running like a feed to my website, or like news about that person. So if it was a Britney Spears account, then it was Britney Spears, trending news, or a top 10 list of her classics, or some sort of viral video about Britney Spears, blah, 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 blah. So then I had to maintain the content on the website for each account every day. So when you're having 60 different things going on, you're one person trying to follow 60 different accounts, we're talking each account was like 1,000 people. Those were Twitter limits, and if you did, they also had rules, so you couldn't just press one button and follow 1,000. It had to like look real. So I had some things kind of like a modified, like I had to build it, so like a modified way to kind of automate it, but it was still me like fucking just working my ass off to make this happen. And then I had these websites pumping out content, which I had to try to automate, because I couldn't come up with 60 new posts every day on 60 websites, So I had to put together a system for that. And then on the website had the ways where I could get some money out of it. So if there was like a quiz for each person or topic, then I could send them, I could put like a tweet out onto that account and say, hey, like Britney Spears fans, take the Britney quiz and see what kind of fan you are, some sort of angle like that. And then a percentage of people would click on it, and a percentage of those people would fill out the quiz, and a percentage of those people I would get paid a commission for, like $1 or whatever. So, it was like I was getting like 50 to 100 people to fill out quizzes. And it was like, wow, like I'm just, I gotta be a fucking genius to figure all this shit out. And I was like, wow, that's all it took, right? But it wasn't. It was nothing like that. It was like I was like working, all this struggle just to get people to fill out quizzes on people who they were interested in. Like I had to, put all these steps together. But it was so much grunt work. Well, obviously, I got this far, so I wasn't stopping anytime soon. And so, to get back to my long story that I said would be short, which is not, sorry about that. I found this software just searching for Twitter stuff one day. It's called Grab Inbox. And it was just like a scheduling software that you can put your tweets in, so that you don't have to manually do it on Twitter. You can just schedule them. So you'd put them you would authorize your Twitter account into Grab Inbox. Grab Inbox would then be able to post on your behalf, and you could add all of your accounts in there. So that way I wouldn't have to log in to Twitter 60 times or whatever, and post manually. So I had this Grab Inbox software, and I had all my accounts in there, and it made things way easier for me. And I was posting the content for the accounts and the links to my websites on each account. Blah 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 blah. So that was what was sustaining these quizzes being filled out. And on top of the quizzes, I had Google banners on my site. So they were just like, any banner you see on any website, like an advertisement spot. You see them like the long leaderboard ones or the square ones on the side of the content, or, if you're watching a video, it might pop up before, and anytime someone clicks on those, you get paid a small, cost per click. So Google has their platform, and they pay anyone 65% on any click. The clicks prices ranged for lots of different reasons, but it was always based on what people were willing to pay for the click. So if you had more just general content that wasn't like niche specific, it was more just like anyone in the world might be on this website, so anyone in the world could get this type of ad, then the clicks were generally like 50. Like my payout was like 50 cents, maybe more, maybe less, and it always varied. And like Google has a crazy algorithm in which they do this, and just as a short note, Google are basically the worst people in the world in my opinion, but they're a monopoly and they control everything, so you are at their mercy. So that being said, they dictate terms, they dictate everything. You have no say and you have no legal recourse. They have terms and conditions that, unless you're it doesn't even matter. They are just so well legally protected that they can do whatever they want. They have the hand of God when it comes to their platform. You have no recourse. They can change anything at any time, and blah blah blah. So you submit to them, and they tell you what you can do, or you sign up, and you try to play by the rules, and you want to get paid. So you're obviously willing to do whatever they say, or at least think that you are. So anyway, I had the banners on my websites, and I had my quizzes going, and it was just like I was always like trying different things on my websites to try to get more conversions, to try to get more people to do the quiz. I had just the quiz pages, and then I had like regular ass content that was going. So it'd just be like if there whatever viral shit that was on Twitter that was trending or that I wanted to make trending, I would put that on my website. So like some new article, or if there was some nip slip, or like whatever tabloid type shit. If you can get the eyeballs, then you want them on your website, and then hopefully get a click from a banner ad or a quiz. So that was the thing, is that I had straight ads for the quiz coming from Twitter with full knowledge, like go fill out this quiz, and then I had just content that was like, I might make some miracle bad clicks. So the Google revenue was like $5 to $10 a day, and then the quizzes was like $50 to $100 a day. So and that's what was making. So at the end of the month, I would get like $150 to $300 from Google, and then I would get like $1,500 to $3,000 from my quizzes. So like nothing to write home about, but that's what I was doing. And so when I was like formatting my sites, I was trying like whatever, just randomly. That wasn't doing this for any reason. I wasn't trying to do it, but I was like, well, I should put the quiz on every page, because if they're going to the website to read some article or watch some video, then maybe they'll fill out the quiz too. And I wasn't doing this. I just had they were separate. They were just like on different pages, but people wouldn't know about it if they were reading an article. So I was like, oh, like duh, like I don't know why I wasn't doing this always. So I like jimmied up a way to frame the quiz into every page on the site, so that way anyone who landed on there, reading whatever article might see the quiz and then fill it out. Flawless, like another genius moment. So my thoughts were to get more quiz submissions to make more money. And what happened was the opposite in terms of where the money came from. But I basically built a little pop up on the site, and I swear to God, hand on the Bible, this was a complete accident. I didn't mean to do it. But when I framed the quiz, I put a little X in the corner so that if you didn't want to fill it out, you could close it and read the article. And it was like, just a small little X. So you have your website like this, just your regular website. And then you have your banner, your like logo and navigation. And then you have your header of your article. And then you have like an ad there. And then you have your content, like your article or your video or whatever's there. So what I did was I framed in a pop-up the quiz to when anyone landed on whatever article, the first thing they would see is the quiz. And it sounds like, oh, that's pretty intrusive and that's a dumb idea. Everyone's going to leave. And yeah, probably it was. But like I was just like, okay, well, I'm just going to try it because why not? So I put the pop-up there and had a little X in the top right corner. So you could basically fuck off to the quiz if you didn't want to. And this was the moment. So I did that and went about my business, whatever. And I logged into my Google account, my AdSense account, which showed me my ad clicks revenue, expecting to see my everyday amazing revenue of $5 to $10. And it was like some random Sunday, like it was a day on the weekend, I think. And I logged in and I made $50 in ads, in ad clicks. I was like, what? Like, oh, this has got to be a mistake. Like, something happened here, right? Or, I got some miracle click that was worth more than others. And so I look, obviously, like, how did this happen? So I was looking at it, and it was like, no, you actually got like 130 clicks on your ads today, and you made $50. And the average click was like 50 cents or less. I think it might have been 40 cents. But anyways, it was $50 in revenue in one day, which doubled my daily income of $50 in quizzes and that. And I was like, what? Like, how the fuck did that happen? And basically, it took some reverse engineering for me to figure out how this happened. But it was because I put the pop-up, and I unintentionally put the pop-up with the X that was over top of where the ad was. So people were clicking the X to fuck off to the quiz, and they were accidentally hitting the ad behind it. So they were accidental clicks. But they were real clicks. They were real people on like their own devices. They weren't like fake clicks in terms of like bots or like something like that. They were actually people. Each click was from a unique IP. Like there was so many things that made it a real click. And the other part was that there's a chance that they might be interested. Like, so be it. It might be a small chance, but if they're clicking on an ad and they get redirected to whatever that ad was, maybe they're a real person and they're going to be, looking at it. There's somewhat of a chance that they could be interested in that ad. And if people are, advertising on my site via Google, something that might be related to my content or my website or whatever, it was like, okay, well, great, sure, yeah, great. But like, I'm not turning down the money, and I'm like fucking super stoked right now because I just doubled how much money I was making overnight. But that was like pretty cool to see. So when I boiled it all down, I figured out exactly